Greetings, friends, and welcome to another ministry of the Victory Hour. This ministry is brought to you by the Lord's people at Clayville Assembly in Foster, Rhode Island. You need to contact me. It's info@clayvilleassembly.com. Or you can write to me, the Victory Hour, P.O. Box 222, Foster, Rhode Island, 02825. Be happy to answer any questions or to help out anybody that needs spiritual counsel, advice, or you have a problem with what I'm saying, you can contact me for that too. I'm open to hear everybody as long as you're reasonable, and I'll try and be reasonable. But we've interrupted our series on predestination to talk about the war between Israel and Hamas, which could suck the United States of America into it, and perhaps even lead us to World War III. So this is a pretty big deal. I'm trying to give a little context for your consideration. Because when it comes to warfare, as I was saying last time, men lie. Nations lie. And I intend in this series to prove that to you. The fake state of Israel, I mean the one over in the Middle East. I believe in the true Israel of God, but the one over in the Middle East is fake Israel. But fake Israel has lied to us, and they will lie again. Now, Hamas, they're in another category of craziness. I'm no Hamas fan. Has the state of Israel run roughshod over the Palestinian people? In many respects, yes, they most certainly have. There is cause for complaint, but that doesn't justify Hamas for who Hamas is. Look, there's evil everywhere. Total depravity is not limited to what we call the bad guys. Total depravity is in Iran. Total depravity is in Russia. Total depravity is in communist China. Total depravity is in the state of Israel. Total depravity is in the United States of America. There's no escaping it. That's the Bible truth. Not the fake patriotic truth. That's the Bible truth. Now, you want to be a true patriot, then stick with the Bible truth, because a true patriot wants the truth. Because he wants to do right by his own people and nation, and everybody should feel that way. But sometimes that requires a little self-examination and perhaps even a rebuke, a correction in one's course. And that's good. So I was given a little context last time around, reading Romans chapter 2 into chapter 3. And I'm not going to repeat that other than to say that the Jews are saying to Paul at the beginning of chapter 3, look, Paul, if your doctrine that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of a living God, if your doctrine is true, then that makes God a liar. Because you're saying the only ones who receive the covenant promises made to Abraham are those who have been circumcised in heart. And you say the only ones that have been circumcised in heart are those that believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And most of us Jews have rejected that. So, if your doctrine is right, Paul, then God is a liar. Because our doctrine is that God has chosen Abraham and his seed, and all of us Jews are his seed, and therefore all of us will be called into the kingdom because we're God's covenant people. Your doctrine is changing that and making God a liar. So Paul turns around and he says in verse 4, God forbid. Let God be true and every man a liar. No, God cannot be a liar. Your doctrine as skeptical, unbelieving Jews makes God a liar. Because your doctrine requires that God save every single Jew. Well, guess what? That's not going to happen. That's not true according to the Old Testament. It's not true according to the New Covenant. So what Paul's saying here, and this is why he quotes at the end of verse 4, Psalm 51:4, as it is written that God mightest be justified in thy sayings and mightest overcome when thou art judged. God is always right. He never lies. So Paul's saying, let God be true and every man a liar. Paul is saying that if your doctrine forces you to believe that God is a liar, your doctrine is false. Just like the people who deny predestination. Your doctrine is false. It's in the Bible by name. Paul's humble frame of reference for discerning truth is, if anything I believe is contrary to what God has said, then my beliefs are wrong. Yes, I agree with that. And I believe Paul's gospel, which means the Jewish understanding that all Israel is going to be saved, every single last Jew. Yeah, that's false doctrine. All Israel shall be saved refers to the whole elect remnant, Romans 11. It's the elect remnant that make up all Israel. All right, so I want to read one more text, and then I got to get into some of the business here of the Middle East. I want to go to Proverbs chapter 21. Proverbs 21. Yeah, Proverbs 21 and verse 6. The getting of treasures by a lying tongue is a vanity tossed to and fro of them that seek death. Let me read that again. The getting of treasures. Now, you got to understand, that's pretty much what war is almost always about. The getting of treasures. Right? Someone's fighting because they want something someone else has, and they want to pretend they have the moral right to it. So everybody's arguing about who has the moral right to, gold, oil, no matter what it might be, land, minerals, things that you can dig up out of the ground that's going to make you rich. So by the getting of treasures, we're told the getting of treasures by a lying tongue. And I'm saying the history of the world is based on people trying to get treasures by lying. That's world history. Now, there's two sides. Doesn't mean both sides are lying. One nation may be attacked by another unrighteously because they want to take you over. Well, you're not lying and doing anything wrong in defending yourself. But usually it isn't like Simon Pure Party A and totally evil Party B. A lot of times they're both equally bad, or in other times there's one really bad party and the other ones are pretty good. But the pretty good people will lie in order to make things go their way better. And that's still wrong, maybe not as wrong as the invaders, but the truth is there's all grades in between. But men lie when it comes to war. And that's why these principles need to be understood. And I'm just trying to say that you need to be skeptical when it comes to entering into war. Now, like I said, Hamas is bad. Yeah, they're bad news. Okay, I'm writing them off, okay? The Palestinians have been handled very, very poorly and abused by the state of Israel for many years, and yet they, at the same time, have done many evil and wicked things themselves. It's a mixed bag. That's just the way that it is. Evil, manipulation, and lies take place on both sides. I'm not saying equally, but I'm just saying that's a fact. But the Zionist state of Israel in the Middle East is not squeaky clean. And that's what I want to underscore. I want to underscore it for the Christian Zionists and the dispensationalists who go, googly-eyed over the state of Israel saying, oh, well, I'll bless him that bless thee and curse him that curse thee. So we better bow our heads and just agree with everything they say and help fight their wars. You mean fight the wars for the nation that says that Jesus is not the Christ and he's not the Son of a living God, which means their doctrine puts him into the definition of Antichrist according to the Apostle John in his epistles. I'm sorry, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but it's true, and I'm a Bible minister. I have to say it. Let me read something for you. This is from Fox News. I'm not a fan of Fox News. I don't watch Fox News anymore. I used to watch it some, and even then I had to stomach it. But, with this last thing with Trump, they did a 360 and they've gone liberal. They're middle of the road, putrefying phonies. And the truth is, go back in the heyday of conservatives, Fox days, go back in the days of Rush Limbaugh. They were neocons. They were neocons for the Gulf War. And they didn't always tell us the truth. But you could get a lot of good from Fox at the same time. See, it's always going to be a mixed bag when you're dealing with human beings. But now, forget it. So I don't watch them. I don't read their articles. But this popped up when I was looking something up. And it was right there. In a sense, I just rather quote Fox than say ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, or Al Jazeera or something like that. So at least some people would say, well, Fox, they're still thinking it's conservative, it's right-wing. So let me read from Fox. And one thing I will say about Fox is, well, they are pretty pro-Zionist. And that's why I wanted to read from them. Some of these liberal outlets, they're anti-Zionist. And some of them maybe even actually anti-Semitic, whatever that means, because most of the Jews in the Middle East don't have a lot of Semitic blood in them, believe it or not. So this comes from Fox News, and it's entitled, and this is from October 12th of this year. It's entitled, Egypt Warned Israel of Attack, House Foreign Affairs Chairman Claims. Let me read this, or just some excerpts from it. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Michael McCaul, Republican of Texas. So he's a Republican from Texas, pro-Zionist kind of fella, but he's the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee as a position of authority and power. He claimed Wednesday that Egyptian officials warned Israel of a potential attack from Hamas prior to the deadly incursion in which the Palestinian terror group murdered hundreds of civilians. Israel had a heads up. Well, why were they defenseless then? They just came right over the border from Hamas. Why wasn't that border being heavily guarded if they were given a heads up? In fact, they had removed a lot of their troops and went over to the West Bank. Kind of like what happened on September 11th. Well, the whole eastern seaboard was left wide open because, there were war games to have over near Alaska. Really? You leave the East Coast defenseless? Nah, see, I don't know if I can buy that one. In fact, I don't. Well, they're kind of doing the same thing. Now, here's the thing. Benjamin Netanyahu says, no, that's not true. Egypt gave us no heads up. We didn't know. We had no idea. That's why we were defenseless over there. That's what they say. That's what Netanyahu says. I'm dropping things. I have to pick them up when I see them fall. Anyway, Netanyahu says, no, that didn't happen. McCall goes on later in the article, and he says he can't get too specific, but he says, we do know, remember, he's a Republican from Texas, a pro-Zionist, and he's the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee for the United States of America. And he says, we do know the Egyptian intelligence did refer this to Israel. Well, the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee is basically saying, good old Bibi is lying to us. He knew it was going to happen. He says it, and no doubt this is coming from American intelligence. Otherwise, how could he be so dogmatic? Because Israel is denying it. He says, we do know the Egyptian intelligence. He doesn't want to say this about Bibi, about Netanyahu, but he is. I got to give him credit. We do know the Egyptian intelligence did refer this to Israel. And I can't get into any more depth than that. But I do know that there was a threat stream out there. It was a failure of intelligence. So that's what they'd have you believe, a failure of intelligence. Now here's, all right, just for time's sake, because I'm running out of time. Was it a failure of intelligence? I'm not so sure. How do we know that elements within the Netanyahu administration decided, and they knew it was happening? I think they knew before the Egyptians even told them. You know, the Mossad, you know the Mossad's motto, by way of deception, thou shalt wage war. After Mr. Ostrovsky wrote his book, I think, they came up with a different motto, kind of smokescreen. I think it was after, or about that, close to that time anyway. Could it be that elements within the administration said, let it happen? Because if they let it happen, they let Hamas come in and do their dirty work, there'll be moral justification for them to do what they've been wanting to do a long time, but world opinion was against them. They needed, well, a new Pearl Harbor for the world's sake. Maybe even for some in Israel. Now, I don't know that that's true. I'm just wondering, and there's reasons to wonder. Talk about one of the most secure borders in the world, the state of Israel, with all the technology. And these guys come in on lawnmowers with fans tied to the back and come over and do all the damage. And where's the resistance? In Israel? So I'm just saying, I'm not saying that they definitely knew ahead, but I got questions. Before we send our boys off to die in another foreign war, I'd like to have the truth. And we'll talk more about this next time. But my time's up. I've got to go. This is Jim Gallagher reminding you in the words of our blessed Lord and Savior, ye shall know the truth, and the truth, if you believe it, shall make you free.